As we start this story, we find a couple, Mark and Betty. They are truly in love with each other. Mark, being a little more daring, wants Betty to be more outgoing and more spontaneous. Betty is more of a homebody and likes the secure notion of having someone to be around. Upon coming home from work one day, Mark saw a nice, pristine pond, and he had an idea. When he came back to the apartment, he told Betty, "I want us to go somewhere tonight, late at night." At first, Betty was a little scared, but she loved Mark so much, she said, "Okay, I'm gamed." So about 12:30 a.m., they head out, and Mark drives to the pond. And she's like, "What are we doing out here?" Mark says, "Let's go skinny dipping." Now Betty's a little surprised. She's like, "What?" "Yes, let's go skinny dipping. Come on. I thought you was gamed." At first, Betty was a little reluctant, but she see how beautiful the pond was, even at night. She said, "Okay." So they took off their clothes and skipped into the water, splashing and playing around in the pond water. And then when they went back home, they made love. Fiercely, intense, and unmistakably in love with one another. So in about approximately 3 weeks, Betty took a pregnancy test because she was having some symptoms, and it found out she was pregnant. At first, she didn't know how to tell Mark, but when he came home, he broke the news. She broke the news to him, and he was overjoyed. He was so happy. And he embraced her and said, "Baby, that means we'll be finally a whole family. Oh, you made me the happiest man on this planet." The pregnancy was going okay at first. She gained weight, of course, the occasional morning sickness, but she said she felt strange in certain ways. Like the baby sometimes was too active and then wasn't active at all. Now, they didn't go to get any ultrasounds to see images of the baby. They should have. But Betty was a healthy woman. She took all her vitamins. She did certain exercises to make sure she stayed limber. So upon the 8th month of the pregnancy, she was having this terrible nightmare. And laying next to Mark, she just cried out and shrieked and woke Mark up like, "What was going on? Betty, what's wrong?" She said, "I think something's wrong with the baby." So Mark was like, "What you talking about?" And he felt moisture on the mattress. He pulled the sheets back. There was a puddle of blood coming from Betty. So in a rush, he got Betty dressed and put her in the car. They drove to the hospital. Upon going to the emergency room, he got the wheelchair, got Betty in the wheelchair. Upon registration, Betty's water broke. more like a clearish, greenish, reddish mucus came out. So they immediately got her to the emergency room. Had her in the bed with the stirrups. And she's like, I don't know, something's wrong with the baby. Something is wrong with the baby. And Mark is trying to calm her down. So eventually the doctor and the nurse came in. And they said, okay, I mean, it's just a little bit early, but you still might have a healthy baby. So I need you to push. And Mark is in Betty's ear talking about, come on, baby, come on, we're going to be a family, we're going to be a family. Push. So within minutes later, the doctor gasped. Oh my God! Even Mark was like, what happened? You must see this. Come see this. So Mark goes and looks. And Betty's like, what's going on? What's going on? Out of Betty came a larva-like worm. Something like a huge infant-sized maggot coated with gore, blood, and ooze. And it squirmed out and plopped on the floor. The nurse fainted. The doctor was like, I don't know what the hell is that? Mark couldn't believe it. So afterwards, the larva was taken to a laboratory, dissected. And here's the conclusion. When Mark and Betty went to that pond or lake, it had different types of spores and parasites in the water. Even though it looked clean, the water wasn't clean. And one of those parasites made it inside of Betty. It made its way all the way into her uterus. And when Mark impregnated her, the larva waited for a while and feast on the infant. So later on, the sheriff of the town put a fence around the pond with no trespassing. And Mark and Betty, after some psychological help, eventually tried to have another baby. They weren't too much in a hurry, but of course you can understand why. And that is the origin of Parasite Lake. Thank you. Take care.